All right, so welcome everybody. This is Purdue Robomasters. Very glad to have all of you here today. So obviously, most of you in this room at least know one person, and myself. So let's get right into this because a lot of us are curious what this competition is about. So first of all, who is hosting this competition? So as you can tell, some of these products you might recognize. Raise of hands. How many of you guys recognize one or more of these products on the board? Look around. Look around you. So this is obviously made by one company called Dajiang Innovations, better known as DJI. They are the world's leader in drone manufacturers. This drone right here and the drone over here in the top left, that is the Phantom lineup. This was the first commercial photography drone that was released to the masses, and it kind of paved the way for the camera industry, the aerial photography industry. And so as a photographer, I knew how big of an impact that had. Now, obviously, we're here not for the drone, but for the actual competition. So what is this competition about? This competition is, obviously, we're not going to be using drones, but we're going to be having coffee table-sized robots to, move around and, just shoot each other. And so, obviously, Verge has considered this thing as a completely over-the-top competition. It's kind of bonkers. And you'll see why in a moment, why this competition has had such a huge impact in the international community very soon. So obviously a little bit on the details. So this is an intercollegiate league. It was started by Frank Wang. He's the founder of DJI, and so we are in the US, and so we are in the international group, which is any group. We're in the international group, so we're like all the teams that are not in China are all grouped together as one. And obviously it says the interest of over 400 universities worldwide, and this is growing by the year. So this is actually past stats. So the RMUC continued. So you see these people in the background, they look all happy and stuff. So you might be wondering, why are they all so happy? So it's because they just won a $600,000 prize pool with an additional $75,000 and a straight shot at landing a job at DJI, because there's a guaranteed internship that comes with winning this competition. And obviously, if you're not in this for the money or the jobs, then you can obviously get celebrity status, because literally they marketed the shit out of this competition. You can tell they have an anime, documentary, and reality TV show. I recommend watching the anime just for the memes, but it's not the best anime, but it's pretty funny because it's the competition.
What's it called?
Robomasters.
That's it?
Yeah, I think so. And the art's pretty good, but they due to budget cuts, they went from a 24 season to like a 6 season anime, and so it became kind of that's distracting me. And so they kind of do budget cuts, they kind of scaled it down a bit, but it's still worth a watch. I think we should make it a club tradition to just watch the first 2 hours of it. All right, so a little bit about the competition. So let's watch this video to explain the rules.
Welcome to Robomaster 2019. There are 5 different robots on each team. Hero, Standard, Engineer, Aerial, and Sentry. With each robot operating in first-person view, teams must begin from their starting zone, navigate a rune-filled battlefield, and find and launch projectiles at the opponent until they are eliminated. The robots are equipped with an armor system that detects projectile hit data, resulting in lowered health points when triggered. Robots are destroyed if their health points reach 0, but can regain health at the regeneration point. Playing a supportive role on the team, the engineer is capable of acquiring larger, more damaging projectiles from the resource island and passing those projectiles to the hero. The aerial is a subtle yet essential player of each team that can be incredibly advantageous when used wisely. It must be charged as much as possible before taking off. The aerial can fly overhead, offering a bird's-eye view of the battlefield while firing on enemies below. As the only fully automated robot on the battlefield, the Sentry can detect enemies' defense capabilities and shoot them. If the Sentry is destroyed, then the team it belongs to loses its first line of defense. The team that destroys the enemy's base first is the winner. If the 7-minute limit of the match runs out, and both teams still have their bases intact, the team with the highest total HP wins.
Alright, so that's the competition. So a little bit about the technology and the stuff you might encounter. So the big part of this is neural networks, computer vision, machine learning, and decision making. So that's like the bread and butter of this whole thing. DJI is known for making some of the most like really cool like computer vision systems, because when their software allows you to track objects and then their camera drone will follow you. So the follow me feature is obviously extracted out from this competition with the computer vision that we're developing. And as you can see top right here, that's a video or GIF of us doing a trial run of our computer vision. And so it uses stands for the color on the light bars on the left and the number on the center of the robot. So each one would designate the type of robot that you're fighting. And so this is big part of it is like, you know, being able to identify the hitbox, because otherwise where the robot's an issue. So and then some of the other stuff that you might encounter is obviously stuff like control theory, the circuit board design, and 3D printing, Python, C++. But that's just respective to whatever your interest area is. So moving on, the international battlefield. And so obviously most of the China's 150 plus are in China. Evan's hometown is actually in Shenzhen, which is where the home competition is. And we're obviously Purdue, we're in our little neighbors UIUC and Rose-Hulman, and the European district and the Southeast Asian district. So Robomasters University League. So there's actually 4 sub-competitions in this under Robomasters. So the first one is the Robomasters University Championship, which is the one you just saw. And this one is the Robomasters University League. So instead of having a 6v6, we scaled it down to 3v3. And so there's a hero, a sentry, and a standard robot in the middle. And obviously it was hosted at Texas A&M at 2021 for the first time. And the North American League consists of a little over 20 teams. We didn't compete that year, but that's because of inactivity, but we'll get into that later. And but here, let's take a look at the North American teams. So first, this is the picture taken off of their website. So notice anything interesting about this picture? Raise your hands. No? Any takers, guesses?
Yeah, there's no Harvard, no MIT.
Oh, I didn't expect someone to guess it, but yes, that's exactly right. MIT's not there. So that means an opportunity for us, because anything MIT with their little fly robots, right? Like, no, we can't. There's no way we're gonna get them. But they're not in it yet, so they haven't eyed this competition. So this is an opportunity for us, and so it's a big deal. So let's go back to like what happened in 2021. So obviously you might be wondering like, so what's this? Why didn't I hear about this club until this guy came around and talked to you guys all about it? And so we go all the way back to when it first started. So in 2017, Evan here, our president, he started this club with 3 other international students, and these guys built the whole infrastructure, the club, the original robots, the teams, and then all the paperwork, right? And then so eventually growing to over 100 and 150 members. So then eventually what happened was, you know, COVID happened, and so the club literally died. And I'm being serious. Like literally, this is the Slack channel, right? So obviously, you can see the Slack channel here, right? This is September. They had no messages until March, with Dr. Linus, the advisor, asking if anyone's still alive, because 0 activity. And so most of the people who were in the club graduated and left. So by the time 2021 semester started, there were only 2 members, Evan and Lewis. So Lewis is right there, our computer vision lead. And so Lewis it was actually not 2 people, it was actually 1 person. It was 1 person, and it was just Lewis. And Evan found out that Lewis was working on this project, and then he was like, "All right, I'll come back," and then that's how the whole thing started. And so then, how did the other teams respond? So this is from the North American Discord server. So University of Texas A&M was wondering like where some of the teams that didn't go, and then obviously NYU was like, didn't we dip? And then this guy was like, we did, and I'm like, realistically we didn't dip. Our club just vaporized, and so we're not here anymore. So how do we distribute it? Right? You gotta get him shocked, right? Sometimes it doesn't work, but you know, sometimes the patients come back. So you know, so unfortunately for us, we'll go all the way back to September. So why am I here? So what the hell is this idiot doing all the talking? So after searching far and wide for this club, because I actually learned about this club in high school, and I wanted to join this competition, and then when I came on campus, and it was fall being involved fair, a lot of us are freshmen, so we all know this. And so I was there just circling around literally 6 times, and I couldn't find them. So I had to ask the student government. They said, your club's on the list, but it's inactive, and yada, yada, yada. And so as last ditch attempt, I sent Dr. Linus an email saying like, hey, is the club still here? I want to be involved. Like, this is cool. I like robots that shoot stuff, And then, and so 4 days later, this was my response. So I get an email from Evan saying like, hey Max, this is Jim from Robomasters, and then yada yada yada. And then, but the most important thing, he was like saying, we have planning a call out this semester, and we need to reorganize the club. And would you like to join us? And to that I said yes. And then if you have any friends, please let them know. And then we set up a Zoom meeting. We called. We were on the call. He was like, man, you're pretty extroverted. Like, why don't you be our project manager? And I'm like, I thought he was just joking. And then 2 weeks later, he was like, we're working on the website, and he tells me to put up the picture. And I'm like, where? Under project manager? I'm like. That's it? And then he was just like, yes, and moving on to the next item on the list. I'm like, dude, no, like, hold on here. Like, I don't know anything. And then he's just like, yeah, who cares? And then so I think I would like to clarify, I'm more of a project manager in training, so I'm more of his proxy. So you're gonna probably take direction from Evan. But you will be working with me. So then, obviously, what have we accomplished since then, right? And so obviously the first thing I did was I got lost in the EC building. And then I met Dr. Hashemi here. And so here's our advisor, Dr. Hashemi. Dr. Hashemi, would you like to take a quick moment, stand up, and tell everybody your research area? And
Yeah, sure, yeah, thanks. Hi everyone, I'm Abu Faz Hashemi. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering. I started last August, so I'm also new at Purdue, and my research is related to artificial intelligence, machine learning, with a focus on multi-agent systems. Again, we design algorithms based on AI and machine learning to tackle problems for these kind of complicated and complex systems.
Yes, and so some of you in the back I know are graduate students I ran into a few days ago, so if you guys are interested, you guys can reach out to him, maybe even work with Dr. Hashemi because he has a little more time on his hands, because usually professors they're never to be found. And so obviously then we moved our club drive from Google to OneDrive, and so we're now going to see the Discord, and obviously we have the Discord channel and the Callout redesign, poster redesign. We were there for the Be Involved fair, and we appointed our new sub-team leaders. Ameka, would you stand up? I don't think Pooja is here, but Ameka here is our new mechanical sub-team lead.
So I'm the mechanical team lead for the Sentry robot, essentially the one that's on top.
Oh, Sentry robot?
Yeah.
Well, I gotta fix my graph.
Yeah.
Well, and then so Ameka is our new sub-team lead. Pooja is another one. I believe she's the hero robot. And so she's for the standard. Is it standard or hero?
Standard robot.
Standard robot. Okay, so she's for standard, and then so she's obviously gonna be working remotely because she's a little busy with her Tesla internships and like stuff like that. And so she's pretty cool. 12K, and then we applied for a 12K silver grant, which was approved recently, so we have money coming in. Otherwise, we can't build robots. And we went around campus, and this is not after, but simultaneously to all these, we went around, mostly me, and talked to people. And so now we're officially registered. And as you can see down here, we have our logo on our North American website. So these other schools will see us in the fall. But what's the state of the club? I know those three guys. Those three guys are the most familiar. So some of our past numbers: 78 active members. We had 78 active members, and 74% of them had experience designing robotics parts. So this was actually quite a big team at one point. And so then at that time we had 7 sub-teams instead of 6. And so that was because we had the spare amount of people, and we had 9 total sponsors, 4 of which are not related to Purdue. So here's some of the sponsors: John Deere, Arconic, SolidWorks, Andy Mark. I'm not so sure what those 3 are, but they seem like engineering related organizations. that just shows you how much knowledge I have. And so here are some of the photos, right? So we're tweaking the engineering robot here. Look at our glorious leader pushing around this, our engineer robot. And then this is the infantry robot, and that is the team. These 2 were past pilots, and those two are working on, I believe, the infantry robot too. And so Evan's hometown is actually in Shenzhen, China, and so his high school is actually used as like an emergency meeting, because they had such a packed stadium, they needed to have all these other international teams have space to work on the projects. They moved all the teams to meet outside in the other nearby schools, and Evan's school is one of those emergency set kind of impromptu locations. And so this is our old logo. That's BoilerBot. It looks like some kind of weird metal kind of like an 80s type of action figure, and so that was it on the big screen. It looks pretty cool, but I'd like to see the new logo up there because I'm not a fan of it. The past team composition, mostly mechanical engineers. We had a small computer science group, which is actually not a good thing because this is very much based on software. This is a very much of a software-based competition. So if you have coding experience, this is excellent. And so here's some of the footage from past teams. So this is our tracking algorithm demo. So as you can see them, they're moving the plate. There's a bit jittery, but that's going to be one of the projects you guys will be helping us optimize or kind of get rid of this problem. You can see that this is tracking the position. And then this is the 2-axis gimbal. And so obviously when you move around the robot, that's how it's stabilized. You can see a laser somewhere back there. It's like a kind of 2 pixels maybe. And so that is the 2-axis gimbal in action. And so the control team is going to be responsible for that. And so this is a weapon system. And obviously you can see these rubber bullets being fired onto this red plastic wall. And it's actually reduced at 40% speed because these things fire so fast. And so it might take out an eye. And these are actually the small bullets. The bigger ones are golf balls. So, yes, the golf balls. So you imagine that being thrown at you. That's not gonna. It's a little dangerous. So obviously so moving on. These 3 are the rendered versions. So that's the engineer robot. We're not going to be working with this one this year or in the near future because we're going to be focused on 3v3. So it's going to be the standard robot, and that's the hero robot. You can see it has that giant ass like crate in the back. It's to put golf balls or those giant projectiles, and so those things have a 5 times damage bonus, and so you can take down bases faster. And so that's why it's actually a very important part of the team in the robot fleet. So current demographics. So most of us here are FYE, mechanical, and electrical. This is a 74, like about 80 responses, and this is so you can do the math in your head. And so like this is quite a lot of people. And this is the year at Purdue. So as you see, most of us are freshmen. There is a good number of graduate students, and some not many seniors. So that means there's a lot of time to burn. And so this is an automatically compiled graph, but as you can tell, most people have some kind of OVEX, FRC, and FLL experience, and very few people have no experience, and that's fine because we're all here to learn. And sub-team interest. So obviously, this year's sub-team interest, a lot of us are actually interested in algorithms. So that's a good thing because, but also none of these teams are like mutually exclusive. You can be part of business and algorithm, control and business, control and algorithm. I know some mechanical people are in algorithm. I believe, is that Euro, right? No? No, well, okay. I know you're a mechanical engineer, but I think he's helping us with some of the control stuff. And so here's the status of the current fleet. This is the current fleet. So this graph is a little bit off because I just learned that Emeka is actually in charge of the Sentry robot. So Emeka is going to help us work on the Sentry robot, and we're going to CAD it, we're going to design it. And so now we have an open position for I believe the hero robot because Purdue is actually working on the standard robot, so I really fucked up with the graph. And so, but this part on the right is correct. Like we have the standard robot completed in terms of CAD, and so we just need to assemble it, and then those two needs to be worked on very quickly. But we're going to do this simultaneously with the other robot that is partially completed. But I'll get into that later. So team structure. So this is the business, control, electrical, mechanical, and algorithm. And each one this is the stuff you might be dealing with. And then these are the organizations that the business team might be working with, some of the software, the control teams, and electrical teams might be working with, and hardware and machinery that the algorithm and mechanical teams will be working with. And so obviously you can see we have positions available, so if anybody is interested in stepping up, please do so. Contact me or Evan. And so the road ahead. So what the heck is the objective for the coming year? So the 2022 season. So back to the part where I told you about there's only one robot, we're going to be working on one robot. So the 3 robot competition, that's still the 2023 season. That's going to be stuff for next year. But this year, because we don't know how many people are actually going to be committing. So with the current number, 1 robot is definitely doable. And we have a partially completed standard robot from the past. And our goal this year is to be finishing that robot, making it competition ready. And so the goal of doing this whole project is to be able to gauge everybody's new skills, teach everybody about the competition, and familiarize everybody with the equipment and skill sets of this competition. And so there's a huge learning curve. That's why we're focused on just building one robot. And this is the one that we're going to compete with. And we actually have it off the books. I'm going to say that like we have a shot, but then officially I'm not going to set too high of an expectation. So I'm just going to lose. So obviously don't get your hopes up because it's supposed to be a learning experience. So loss is expected. But next year and the year after, we're going to try to kick some ass. So our sub teams will also be, as I said, designing the Hero, Standard, and Century robots for the 2023 season. And here's the roadmap. So the call out from today is in February, and there's going to be a SOGA workshop where that's where our funding is coming in from. So we're going to host a SOGA workshop. So people who are interested in the business who can help us organize this event, people who can teach about control systems and algorithms and stuff like that, you can come and be a teacher with us and just let us know. And we can host this workshop and teach the Purdue campus, and then we'll use that money to buy equipment, and then we have to keep it after the event's over. So that's how we get our funding. And then so obviously by April, we should be end of April, we should finalize our standard robots. By the start of May, project should be completed by then because we have our students. So our academic GPA is we would like that to be a little higher than mine. And then so it's finals week, and so we're going to focus on getting our good grades, and then competition day is in June, end of June, around 25th, but that's subject to change. So what's in it for you? So you guys are obviously this is not a one-man enterprise, so we are opening up a lot of doors for you guys. This activity is something unique that you can put on your resume, because if you join now, you're part of the first generation of engineers that we're going to be doing in this team. And so, if you join now, and you can work on this project, and you can say, like, I worked on 1/3 of the robots in this team, and we named this robot. You can tell a whole story, and employers would definitely be interested, because you're not going to find that stuff in like the SAE and FAE racing teams, because those chassis are already built, and we're not going to be iterating on those. We're going to be iterating on ours, but we still have 3 more robots to build, because in addition to the ones that we're going to be building, because the 6v6 competition is that's the long-term vision. Like if we can eventually compete in China, that's like pretty cool. And so obviously you can have greater individual contributions to the team. I shit you not, like this is I've talked to many people in this room, and like some of them have actually told me that one of their projects was they were optimizing screws for one of the racing teams. And I'm just kind of like, what the hell, optimizing screws? Like, don't you just go to Home Depot and just buy a 12-pack? Like what do you need? This is not the space shuttle. We don't need to optimize screws. And so just stick a few like steel bolts inside and we're all good. And so obviously we're not going to be working on stuff like so arbitrary. And so there's greater individual contributions, valuable technical skills, and diversifying one's interests. So obviously you can tell there's 5 sub-teams, so you can join all of them. Just kind of like the sub-teams are, the survey was there to kind of get an idea of what everybody's interest is, because we can, if you want to work on 3 different sub-teams, that's even fine. It's just really for the team leads to be able to track who's under their, in working on the projects. And obviously research connections, industry connections, and research opportunities. So as you know here, Dr. Hashemi is he's kind of new, and some of the other professors might have time on their hands to be working with some of you graduate students or undergraduate students who are interested in doing research. And so you guys can reach out to them and talk to them and maybe even sort something out. And obviously industry connection is something that's like a little tricky at the moment, because club vaporized, so I don't think any club wants to work with us, but that's what our business team is going to be doing. And anybody wants to help us with that, that's going to be great, because then we're going to secure those sponsorships, right? And opportunity to learn what is in class, that's an obvious. And obviously we can have the freedom to explore and take risks, because right now we're at the time where we have the freedom to really tinker and try different designs before things mature and the club kind of like becomes a little bit more rigid. The thrill of competing and meeting other teams and forming lifelong friendships, that's kind of the whole goal of making these kinds of clubs. So obviously any good marketer would tell you that any sort of marketing statement, you don't want 9 things, you want 10. So 10 commandments, right? Like exactly, right, exactly. Owen's got it. So obviously, what's the number 10? What's the most important thing that we're gonna be looking for, right? Anyone want to give a guess? Anyone want to take a guess? No.
Money.
Close. Close. Any other take? Any other guesses? All right. Well, I'll just say it. Bragging rights. Because obviously, there's nothing better than being able to go up to other schools and say, "Hey, look, we won." But obviously, disclaimer: we only recognize non-participation awards, and one or more wins is needed to be able to use our bragging rights. So, what's the end goal? So you might be wondering, so like, what's the long-term vision, right? Like, what's the whole spiel, like, you know, like, not just this year, but like, what's the eventual arch of this club, right? Like, what are we gonna do 4 years from now, 5 years from now? What is the eventual destination we wanna reach? Simple. By the time I leave Purdue, I have 3 goals. First one is to become the best team in the country. And I say that is because, you know, a lot of the other schools are overworked, and like, we have a shot at doing this, and we have some really brilliant people on board. So I think that's a reachable goal. Like 4 years for me, at least, I'm gonna be sticking around for a while. So that's a lot of time on my hands. And this is a 4-year commitment for me. So the second thing is to become the best team in the country. it's that important. It's that important. Anyone want to guess what the third one is?
I think if you're not that, you're trying to throw us up.
You want to know? It's the kick Berkeley test.
Yeah.
Because I'm from California, and that rejection letter, yeah,
Oh my God.
exactly. Yeah, because so what does that look like, right? You have look at the mascot here. Look, he's so happy that he got all this funding from the international students, right? Like those rich kids from all the way across the country, right? They're coming here to study at Berkeley and then kicking us Californians out. So here I am in the Midwest thinking, like, let's build a team and let's just bring in our infantry robot and just help them. And look how happy he's so happy that we just beat Berkeley's engineering team, because right now we're placed at number 4 in the 4th best engineering program. Berkeley's number 3. So obviously there's going to be a little bit of rivalry. So let's go back to this one. Remember this thing? Discord channel. All right, cool. So here's some of the other teams who got curious, and they're like, why were we? Are we gonna be back? Are we gonna be back? Like, I don't know what I'm not sure. Like, if Purdue is gonna be back. So Texas A&M and like some of the operators, they're having a discussion. And so here's my response. That's not much child abuse.
What? Video of that?
Yes, it's over there. You gonna wave at the camera? But yeah, I sent him a child me, and I said like, hey, look, we're gonna come back. I'm gonna come back to see you guys in June. I'll bring a hammer. You know, we're alive. And so like, before I end things, I would like to say things real quick. I'm the kind of person who's like, I don't try to convince people of something I don't believe in. So I heard from somewhere in time, in the past, that says the hardest person to convince is yourself. And I've convinced myself that this is something that's worth my time and worth doing. And I don't think, you don't see me in FA, you don't see me in racing team, you don't see me, like, with respect to those organizations, I don't believe that it's worth my time. And so obviously I'm not there, I'm here. And so this is something I'm very committed to. And I'm very passionate about this, and so I hope a lot of people who are going to be joining us today is also very passionate. And so obviously this entire room, I talked to all of you, and I know there's some really brilliant people here. This is really reasonable for like beating these teams is actually not as hard as you might think, because Berkeley, they're actually like overworked. Because like I have friends there, they're talking about like their freshman year, they're having like 3 internships and shit like that. And I'm like, people talk about internships until like your sophomore year here, and so at the very minimum. And so that's like a totally different story there. So we actually have like a really good shot at like destroying some of these top schools, especially because Evan, you know, he founded the club and his hometown is literally next to the stadium, so he has a lot of connections over in China. And so I hope you guys are, you know, like, were entertained by my kind of generic presentation, but help us write the next chapter in Robomasters. Thank you. All right, so if you have any questions, technical questions, you can ask Evan or Lewis, and you know, that's kind of most of it. You have free food again. And if you have any questions, you can come on, let's talk to me. I'm pretty sure most of you guys already filled it out.
Actually, we will have a meeting in this weekend, so I will share the schedule in the Discord. So make sure you join our Discord channel. Yeah, so the first meeting will be online. So the team leader will help you guys to install the software, to to help you guys to get know about each other. And then after that meeting, our regular meeting will be in 2 weeks. So we will meet 2 weeks in 2 weeks. Okay. And then
basically our sub-team meeting will be bi-weekly.
yeah, bi-weekly. So you'll have 2 weeks to finish some of your projects, and then we will meet together to discuss some details. I think for the mechanical team, most of your job in this semester is CAD. And then in electrical team, it's about the PCB and then some supercapacitor design. We've studied those projects before, so you just need to implement that. And then for the algorithm team,
I'm still working on it.
yeah, so for the control team, you will use do some coding in STM32, and then we will distribute some control board to you guys. So you guys can have the soft hardware at home, and then you can do the coding at home. And then if you meet some problem or some difficult, and then we can meet together to have some short discussion. So yeah, basically in this semester, as Max said, it's a learning procedure in this semester. We will help you guys to understand the coding of the robots, understand the embedded system, understand the algorithm we wrote before, and then to try to do some design stuff. Okay. Any questions? Yeah, and then we have a space in BIDC just next to the 3rd Street. And then we have a small space. I'm still looking for a large space. That one is too crowded. We have many raw materials. We have our robots in that space. I just went to there today, and then they are not open for all the students right now. I'm trying to figure this out. Since previous semester we meet in that space. Right now it's not feasible. I'm trying to figure this out. Right now we will meet online. Okay. So any other questions?
You guys can stay behind if you have something to do. You guys are free to leave. Any other questions? We're going to be posting this on the Discord. So for there's about like 10 or so people who can't be here today. And if you guys were curious, some of the people here are pretty interesting. Like I know that Lewis here actually recently got an Amazon internship, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So and then the past person who designed our control boards, they also he went to Microsoft, and the guy, obviously our team lead, she has a currently ongoing Tesla internship, and with an HP internship under. I read all the resumes, and so and obviously we have a lot of very brilliant freshmen and sophomores. I know there's also a chemical engineer in here who has experience with SolidWorks, so I don't discriminate. If you want to come by, just come by. And I literally talked to a math major because he wanted to do CS. So yes, and so this is quite a diverse team, and the whole goal is it's going to take a while before we can actually get to a speed where we can actually compete with the other teams. But the only way you can go is up, because right now we're the shittiest team, and but we have people, so it's gonna go up because we just need to go compete, see how it's like, and then come back and we're making changes, and then we'll surprise them next year, right? So that's the whole plan. But but thank you all for coming here today, though.